So today we'll talk about Nikon and its future a little bit. We have spoken about it a little bit earlier, and in fact, my last video, I think a lot of people got disappointed and they thought it was a negative perspective on Nikon. It wasn't. I was just trying to say that I was just trying to communicate that Nikon should communicate more often, which is something that Vagan, hi Vagan, what's up?
What's up, guys?
And Baron, what's up, Baron?
Hi guys, good to be here.
So, which is
Thank you
something
for
that,
having us, bro.
yeah,
Yeah,
always,
thank
always. So, and that's something, lack of communication from Nikon is something that Vagan and Baron, if you follow them, please follow Vagan. And Baron appeared with him, I think last week, right? So, if you watch that chat, you'll see them speaking about the, the lack of consistency in Nikon's communication, and that I was just trying to point to that and say that look, we know that Z9 is coming, but I think there should be more conversation, more consistency. People just want to know because they will have a certain, they have plans in life, right? So that cannot, it cannot be indefinite. So once you tell people like, look, this is when you expect this or that, they can accordingly, figure things out for themselves, and that I think that's only fair. So that was the intent, but I think today let us visit this discussion on how should the entire Nikon line look like according to us, and we will all have different views, and we'll talk about both the cameras and lenses. We talk about full frame, the full frame lineup, and also the fledgling APS-C lineup, which looks very interesting right now, and the lenses. We are also seeing interesting lenses, right? So where do you begin, Vagan and Baron? Where do you begin, Baron? So you remember, you must have watched that one of those first chats that Vagan and I did, where we talked about the Z8 and how the Z8 should be probably something like an R5, Nikon's R5, right?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so when you say it should be an R5, so in what respect were you guys saying that it would be like an R5? What?
So I think it was more my perspective, and I was saying that a level higher than Z7 II and Z6 II, both in terms of photo and video, but not quite a Z9. A level below Z9, at around 4,000 US dollars. And I think Vagan, you remember you also said 4,000 US dollars, and
Yeah,
at
but
around that,
I
yeah,
think the Z7 II is already there.
it's
You
3,000.
need
Still,
no,
still,
not price wise. I think what you're asking for the Z7 II
Well,
already has.
if I could ask a question of you, Vahagen, because you're still shooting some DSLR, and I think you said you shoot the D800 and the D850, and those cameras have the professional layout of controls.
Hmm.
So they don't have like the dial that says P, S, A, and all that M, and they don't have that dial. They have a mode button,
yeah.
and they have the buttons that you push and spin. So my understanding from the past is that that was the professional layout for several reasons. One is that it's more weather sealed when it's like that, but also just like I'll tell you, like when I'm shooting, I almost never take it off of manual, almost never. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that entire dial is kind of a waste because I almost don't use it.
Yeah, it's a waste to you, but I know a lot of pros they use aperture
Yeah,
priority.
and that might be, but you can also push mode and just spin it to A really quickly, right? I mean, if you on your D850.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just press the button, but yeah, because the other side of the camera controls single continuous, continuous low, continuous high.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's my feeling is that the Z7 II and the Z6 II, they have the prosumer control schematic. Like they are equivalent to D750s when it
Fine.
comes to the schematic. Now,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead. Sorry.
second that. I second that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So
whole
so
waste of just an important area of the camera that can be used for other stuff. I mean, for that to just switch from manual to aperture to user one, two, three, I'm not sure. Does the Z9 have the same thing? I didn't really
No.
look at the top
The,
dial.
Yeah.
the Z9,
Yeah.
the Z9 has the controls of the D6, which is similar to the D850.
Yeah.
And also it's going to have lighted dials, where you can spin the on off button by the shutter release. You can push it the other direction to engage the light, and you can light the backup like the D850 and the D500 and the D5 and the D6. So there's a professional level. I think all of those cameras that I just listed are all on the level of this professional body style.
Yeah.
And that's what the Z6 and the Z7 does not have. So
Yeah.
for me, when the Z7, people say, oh, the Z7 III could just be basically what the D850 is. Well, it could be, but they'd have to change the body.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to come in here. I'll just make this point. See, if you look at the lineup, if you look at the Sony lineup, see if how they have divided is they have a sensitive or light sensitive camera, which is the S series, which also couples as a very good video camera, low megapixel, 12 megapixel video first photo camera, right? And then you have R, which is high resolution, so the R series. And then you have the A7 III, which is sort of do it all mid range. And then you have the A9, which is fast, mid range megapixel, about 24. So if you look at what Sony has done now, the Sony has given the entire line of video equivalent of those cameras. So A7C for A7 III, right? And you have for A7 III, you have now an FX3, and they're calling it a cinema body. For parallel to this, for the APS-C bodies, they have A60 600 and A60 400. They've just launched the ZV-E10, which kind of uses the same sort of sensor, same sort of capabilities, but it doesn't have an EVF, and it's for video, right? It's got a flip screen. So, and all of it is now put together with the A9 speed, and they now have given you the A1. So all of these capabilities, the high resolution of R series, the pace of the speed of the A9 series, the video capabilities of the A7 III series, all of that is put together in one body in the A1. So I can clearly understand the logic in how they have designed the portfolio. And I can see someone's trying to buy something, they can clearly identify what they need in terms of the function of the camera. And the reason I brought Sony up here is because I think Nikon looks at things slightly differently. Instead of looking at it by the function of the camera, they look at it by the body style, like Baron said, right? So if you look at the D5, the D6, or even those flagships are completely unibody design cameras. But if you look at D850 and D500 again, they're also professional bodies, and they kind of share similar design sensibilities with the kind of weather sealing and protection which is a couple of notches higher than the rest of the camera bodies. So I don't know. I'm not seeing Nikon follow the Sony logic. I'm definitely not. If Nikon follows their own logic, then I'm seeing that there could be an equivalent of a Z6 II, if not Z6 II, at least equivalent of a Z7 II in a more professional body with a few added capabilities. And that could be your Z8, which also is there for a mirrorless version of the D850 with the video capabilities added. The
Well,
D850 was,
if you look at what they're doing with their naming,
yeah,
the D600, 700 series, 800 series, right? So you got the
yeah,
Z6, Z7. So
yeah,
it only makes sense to, you know, because the
anticipate
D600,
one.
you remember the D600 line, right?
Yeah, yeah.
so
And this D700 line, which is what Baron was saying, it had those dials that the D800 line did not have, but
I
the
like that
D800 had a
logic.
pop-up flash, which I'm glad they got rid of.
I like
You
that
know,
logic, Vagan, a lot, because I'll tell you why. Because then you're saying that in 2020s, in the 7 series for mirrorless cameras, it is no more a mid-range megapixel body. It's a high megapixel 45 something, and that's now the new normal. But before that, D7, CD700 or 750, they were like in the mid range. They're not high megapixel, and the 800 used to be high resolution at around 35, 33, if I'm not wrong. And then for D600, there used to be low megapixel cameras, right? The D600 series.
No, the
About
D600 was a 24 megapixel as well.
Yeah, but I mean,
okay.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying this
Yeah.
is why
So,
it is.
so
I'm looking for
Yeah.
clues.
right, and from that
Yeah.
perspective, I think the Z, if there were a Z8, to me it should be similar to, so it should be basically a very high resolution camera, 60 to 80 megapixels. I don't think you need that at the mid range. I think a Z7 III at 45 megapixels is more than enough for any prosumer, period. There's no prosumer that needs more than that. And even on a pro level, like 60 to 80 is probably just like high level commercial stuff in the studio. But the thing about Nikon that's great is they always have the three levels of RAW that you can shoot: RAW large, RAW medium, and RAW small. So if you have an 80 megapixel RAW large, your medium is probably around 45 to 50 megapixels, and your small is probably around 24 megapixels, which is great. So that camera can do everything then. And that's kind of like a D850. The D850 kind of did everything, at least from a still perspective, back when it came out. And so a Z8 to me is higher megapixel than a Z7. But of course, it can approximate the Z7 with a medium file, and it has the pro body build of the Z9 without the built-in integrated grip. But it should have an optional add-on grip, just like the D850 did. And I think that's a camera that sells at $4,000. I think its video capabilities are pretty good, but not as good, perhaps because of the higher sensor. I guess they have to do more line skipping, or I don't know. There's a lot of
tremendous
technical
amount
stuff.
of line skipping if it's a 60 megapixel
Yeah,
or 80
yeah,
megapixel.
but I think this is a topic that I wanted to sort of add on to from a discussion we had the last time. When you talk about video cameras and what is needed for a video camera is dependent on whether it's a hybrid shooter or like a filmmaker. And I don't think Nikon is going to ever, I don't ever might be too strong, but in any time soon is not going to be in the business of making film cameras. And by film, I don't mean film like celluloid. I mean for making movies, like full feature films.
Cinema line
right?
cameras.
Because I think that's where you have Sony and Red and Canon and all these really high-end cameras are made for that. And I don't think that's Nikon is not in a position to compete there easily. And it would take tremendous R&D to get there, which I don't think is something that they want to spend money on. So
right now, not right now. Yeah.
Right. So, but when you talk about a hybrid shooter, a lot of these, like even 8K is totally unnecessary. Can you use it? Sure. I'm sure people can find a use, but do they actually need it? If you're shooting like a hybrid film at a wedding, and I don't mean if you're the videographer, but I mean if you're a hybrid shooter where you're shooting the actual stills and then you're also taking video clips and you're going to put a highlight reel together. Honestly, like at this point in time, 1080p at 60 frames is fine. Your clients, the clients don't know the difference and they don't really care. They just want it to be captured and look nice. And it does. It looks nice at that level. They're also not blowing it up onto a movie screen. They're putting it on their iPhone and their TV at the most. So to me, the video on a Z8, if the video they'll have 8K and they'll have these things, but it might not be the same quality of 8K and the same quality of 4K as the Z9 is, let's say, or even the future Z6. But I don't think that matters. I don't actually think that's a problem.
Well, you see, so there's one thing I'd like to mention is that even for a 1080p production line, right, production work, you at times you need the ability to crop in, so that's why you need 4K. So I think
I disagree with you, Baron, because this is 4K is the standard now. If you're not shooting 4K, your cameras should be able to. You should, if your camera records 4K, you should record that wedding in 4K.
There's no need to. It's like saying 1080p is good enough for most times, but I think I agree that 4K is that's a desire.
So there's a difference between saying what you what needs to be done or what you should do,
Well, it's
right?
like
Like you're
saying,
like,
okay, I have a you know, what is a Z6 shoot? I have a 24 megapixel camera, but I'm going to shoot it at 12 megapixels because you don't need 24 megapixels. Same thing, same concept.
yeah, but I might do, for example, if I was shooting on a D850 at a wedding, I probably would shoot I'd probably shoot the raw medium file, which is 25 megapixels.
Hmm.
And the reason is I don't want that much data. I don't want to fill my card up. I don't want like I don't need it for the wedding shots because 24 megapixels for wedding shots is enough.
Yeah,
It
I
really
mean,
is.
cards are cheap these days. I mean, I
Well,
don't
yeah.
have a problem with that.
I mean, I'm just saying like it's not to say that you shouldn't like if you choose to do that, if you choose to shoot at 45 megapixels for the wedding, that's not a bad choice. I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm saying I don't think it's necessary. It's not
Yeah.
like it doesn't, you don't have to do that. If you want to, that's
Mhm.
okay. And was it going to look good? Of course it's going to look good. But to me, what I'm saying about as a hybrid shooter, so most shows on TV are still in 1080p, a lot of them. So this notion that you have to have 4K is more driven, I think, by YouTubers, and which is ironic because most of you, I guess what one of my points was that, you know, as a hybrid shooter, I don't know that the video quality has to be 100% state of the art. I think it just has to be competitive. And I agree that 4K is becoming more standard and maybe for the point of wanting to crop in and stuff like that. But doing like a hybrid, kind of a hybrid reel, like at a wedding where you're just taking clips of the same things that you're photographing, really seems to me like even if you have 4K 60, that's going to be good enough, in my opinion, for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I
It'll be
think
good
Yeah.
enough.
for
So if you have 4K 60, that's good in any
yeah.
of these cameras coming out in the next year or two, and the 4K 60 is full frame and it's good quality, I think for a hybrid shooter, you're good enough. You're just good enough.
Yeah, even 1080 is good enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, 99.9% of videographers at weddings, they shoot at 1080. I like hardly ever. They actually upcharge a 4K. So
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, like,
But
I think for Nikon, they don't like, they have to be competitive. So the problem is they have to have the stuff now because they have to be competitive. And
yeah,
I think they will, but I think there's different camera lines for different things. I don't think the Z8 has to be the best video camera. It has to just be good.
no, I
yeah,
That's
agree,
it.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
So I mean, and what is the best video camera anyway? I mean, is it
there
the
is no best. There is no
yeah,
best.
Well, when I say the best, I mean the best of Nikon, even. Like it
yeah,
doesn't have, like the
no,
Z8 doesn't have to be Nikon's best video camera. My feeling is they'll always make the Z6 be their flagship video camera, or maybe the Z9. The Z9 might just be best at everything. And then the Z6 probably is going to always be a good video camera because that's kind of how they marketed it in the beginning. It worked with the Atomos, and you could do like 4K, you could do raw, 4K raw, like if you did an upgrade, but they were one of the first to market that was even allowed that. So
The Z6 video out of the box looks great. Out
yeah,
of the colors, their standard codec they use, it looks great. It's
yeah.
usable out of the box. Looks
But
wonderful.
but you know what? That's not going to be enough in the future. That's because
Of course,
you'll have to address the more advanced users, and we are
of
looking
course,
at photography because that's what we deal with more often. But the market out there is transforming very very quickly, and people see creative people will want creative liberty. One of the reasons we all love Nikon is because the raw files are so good. Now with the 10-bit files in video, you are not giving the same kind of creative room to creators. Now creators will want that. Creators will want to exploit the newer opportunities coming their way, and the camera gear will have to do the job. I mean, therefore the point is, there is going to be, when you get a camera, there's going to be one day, even if there is one day in a year, what do you do? Do you go and hire a Sony for that day? You don't want to do that. If you feel that I'll probably have to hire Sony for that one day when I might need it, then you will invest in Sony. And look, that is how it is. That is how it is, because when you need that on that day, it is not about just the camera, because it is the entire setup built around that camera. It is the lenses, the filters, the my everything, right? You can't do all of that for just for a day, because you're building that infrastructure, the gear infrastructure that you have throughout the. It takes a long time. So then, therefore, I'm saying it is yes for most use cases, it's going to be enough. But if Nikon is going to protect losing, if it's a leaky bucket, it's a problem. So protect losing some of the
So
market share.
ma-
One, then just a sec. So I'll
Mhm.
tell you. I think that what is missing right now is a very good entry level um, video video or a very good hybrid camera, and that Z5 doesn't cut it, because Z5 has limitation when it comes to video. That can allow the creator to do basic color grading. Basic meaning it should have more than 50 or 80 megabits per second when you're recording. It has to be more than that. You have to allow creators to record at 200 mbps. So that's one. Then there are other things, for example, to allow for log. See, Fuji does that with the XS10. I think, yeah, Fuji does that for XS10. Nikon doesn't do that. Nikon doesn't allow you. And XS10 is not from Fuji. It's not a very expensive camera. The same thing with Sony. They will not allow you to do raw recording or 10-bit out of those smaller APS-C cameras, but they have fantastic, very good HDR profiles. You can do a lot. You can recover a lot of highlights with it. Those things are missing right now. And then you need a camera at the pro level, which Sony has in the form of A7 III, A7S3, and Canon's R5. See,
Mm.
I think what's going to frustrate Nikonians in future is that most of the photo cameras are good enough for 99% of the times, for 99% of the people. But as our use cases become more hybrid, they will feel the pressure to have a gear that's more um, less fuzzy about uh, making the videos happen, right? We're not, look, we are talking about really good professionals and advanced users. I don't think they're going to limit themselves
Well, if
to
what you're
out of the camera,
if what
right?
you're saying is right, frames, and it might well be, I think Nikon is in agreement with you actually, because they have already stated that video is one of their focuses going forward.
Yeah.
So I think they are going to do that. I guess for me, there's a distinction between however good video can be in this SLR type of body style versus
Yeah.
the cinema cameras. I don't think they're going to make cinema cameras. I
No,
think
I
I think
yeah.
they yeah, I don't. I think they can make the video excellent quality within the SLR bodies, and they can be competitive there, and they can have all, they can be state of the art,
Yeah.
at least on the flagship and on the, if they have a flagship video camera. And when I say video camera, I mean an SLR style of video camera.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I do think for the large group of hybrid shooters, like I think like the only thing the Z6 II doesn't have right now that I think some hybrid shooters would miss is 4K 60 in full frame, because
Yeah.
it's only in crop right now. And that would be the one reason why I would see myself having to upgrade for event style shoots. The one reason I could see myself having to upgrade from the Z6 II in the next 3 or 4 years would simply be to get 4K 60 at full frame.
Well, who uses that? Who has 4K 60 on? Well, no, sorry. Does any manufacturer that does 120 right now is a full frame?
Yeah, Sony A7S3, but that's more expensive. But you get 4K 60 full frame with Canon R6.
Yeah, but I'm guessing with Canon R6, and I'm sure the A7 IV is going to have it.
Yeah.
No, how about 4K 120?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think 4K 120 will happen at 2,500 US dollars.
What does the
But
R6 have? Does the R6 have 120? I know the R5 does, but that's much more
no,
money.
No, they
R6
all have.
doesn't have.
The R6 doesn't, but the R3 does. The R5 does.
Yeah,
Okay.
The
but
Sonys
they're
do.
yeah, but you're talking. Then we are going above 3,000 US
But are
dollars
they
price
full?
point.
Are they full frame? Are they full frame
Yeah,
at 120? They are full
yeah,
frame.
yeah, yeah. They
Then
are.
there's no way. And you're
See,
right, Baron. Nikon needs
Yeah.
to address that right away.
Yeah, they should address that. I think
Yeah.
they
hmm,
definitely need 4K 60 at full frame.
Yeah. Look,
Definitely.
it's not, and you know what? The time is done for Nikon to be behind.
exactly.
It's time to be even or ahead. You got the glass. You have to go with the times now. We're living in a different time. We have a lot of content creators, and why would you take the risk of having users drop your product and buy a Sony because the Sony does it? Yeah, okay, Nikon colors are great, but Nikon lenses are great, but I'd rather have a camera that does it all
Right.
and just sell all my Nikon stuff. It's time for Nikon to step up and run with the big boys when it comes to hybrid video. Now, when you talk about cinema, do you consider the A7S3? Do you consider the what is the other Canon R5? Do you consider those cameras cinema cameras?
No.
Then they're not, but they've been used by filmmakers, serious filmmakers.
It's not that you can't use them as a filmmaker. You
Mm.
could, but
Mm.
that's not their primary intent.
So they
That's
are
not
hybrid cameras.
They,
So
they, they are video cameras, not so much film, because film cameras are they're far more modular. They're supposed to be mounted differently, completely. So that's a different kind of ball game altogether. But you know what? Just one point that I'd like to mention here is, um, you see, it's not only about getting one video camera out. I think it is. I mean, by video I mean hybrid. It is about getting those hybrid cameras out at all price points. I think ZFC was actually a good opportunity, and I don't know what Z30 is going to be. I read an article, I think it was Petapixel or somewhere. I think they talked about how the Z30 or the new upcoming small camera is going to focus on video. And by that, if they mean the same video capabilities of Z50 or ZFC, sans the sum of the photo capabilities and sans the viewfinder, then by deleting some of those photo capabilities, it doesn't make it a better video camera. You need better video features for it to become a better video camera. For
yeah,
example,
well,
okay, yeah,
I have a question for you guys.
yeah,
Are you guys familiar with the FX3?
yeah,
vaguely. Yeah.
Okay, you are right, Frames. The
yeah.
FX3. The
Basically an
FX3,
A7S3.
yeah, but that's cinema line.
Yeah,
So
hardcore filmmakers do not
Yeah, but
consider it a
yeah,
cinema camera, but
yeah, that's the one it looks kind of like a SLR, but they consider it a cinema camera.
it's square.
Right.
yeah,
But I don't think I don't think like I don't think it is for hardcore cinematographers. I don't.
yeah. But
I really don't.
it's nice entry into the experience of using a cinema camera.
Yeah, and
So
it has all the the mounting capabilities.
right.
I think you know what I think, but it's affordable too. It's like $4,000.
Yeah,
It's
but
like four
look at
grand.
what it is doing. What it is doing is actually is these 3 or 4 year old Sony users have been using this DSLR or mirrorless cameras to do filmmaking, a little bit of filmmaking of videos that they do, and they're graduating towards making better stuff, right? Now that's their entry. FX3 then serves as an entry point to more serious filmmaking. That
Mhm.
they get a taste of film camera of cinema line of cameras with the FX3 instead of buying an A7S 3. They go for the FX3. They get familiarized. They start expecting. They get a taste of what a cinema camera can feel like. Then they
Yeah,
aspire for an FX6, for example.
yeah.
But
Well,
you
it
see
still
how
does
they're
stills.
therefore
Still
right.
does stills. It still
Yes,
does
still are
stills,
stills. Yeah, still
but
are
it has a
stills.
dedicated heat for the heat. It has a fan for the heat dedicated.
Yeah, yeah. So you see how there Sony is nudging the audience forward, right? I
Yeah,
can
and
see.
Nikon should do the same. I'm
Yeah,
talking to Baron. I mean, I agree with you, Frames, but Nikon should really do they should compete now. Enough waiting, enough this, that, and
Right.
enough
But
talk.
I guess what I think is they should compete in the hybrid,
Yeah.
excuse me, in the hybrid market, they should compete. And they are.
Yeah.
And I think they said that they're going to focus on video going forward. So my suspicion is that we will see advanced video features. I mean, the Z6, when it came out, was actually a very advanced video camera compared to the market at the time. I mean, if you put the Atomos on, you could get RAW. That wasn't even true in the other
Yeah.
cameras at the time.
But
So they kind
Baron,
of,
there is just look at the Panasonic line. Like Panasonic line exists because of their filmmaking potential abilities. See, they have got false color. They have all sorts of stuff for you to monitor the filmmaking process in a more professional way. You have full control. They allow you to figure out shutter angles. You can put on anamorphic lenses, right? So these are features that people who are advanced filmmakers and videographers, they consider those features an integral part of a video camera. It's not just and then of course consider the Canon has 3 log profiles, right? Not just one log profile. Develop those files and profiles. It's important. So I think those associated features are what make a camera a proper video camera. And right now we are not really talking about just the raw power of the of the camera to output a certain K in a certain P, meaning 4K or 8K or 6K with a 30 or 60 or 120 or 240p. It's not only about that. It is, even if you have 4K 30, how well can you do that 4K 30? Can you do that professionally? Now, I don't think, like we were talking about it, Baron, a couple of days back when he said, how many of Nikon shooters do you know who are very, very well versed with video editing, highly skilled with video editing? I think the percentage is going to be low because Nikon shooters do have limited access to higher quality video features. So that part of them is also is somewhere restricted because they are invested in a system for all the right reasons that doesn't nudge them toward does push them to explore. When you have this stuff inside you, when you have focus stacking, you try it out. When you don't have it, you don't even know how it works. You try to find some other way, right? So Sony users don't know what focus stacking can do for you.
so we have to see. So it'll be interesting to see when the Z9 comes out, what its video layout looks like, and the spectrum of video capabilities in that camera,
The
because
entire
that'll
video
set the tone.
interface, yeah.
Yeah, and that'll set the
Like
tone
Nikon,
for the other.
the Z cameras don't have tally light. You understand how important that is when you have, especially when you have 30 minutes limit, a light can tell you whether it's recording or not. These are small features that are important. Like the Fujis have that. It's a little bit of thoughtfulness when it comes to video that Nikon applies. That kind of sensibility is something that Nikon applies for photographers already.
So let's take the position that we assume that Nikon is going to compete aggressively in the video features for future cameras, because they said they would. And by all indications, the Z9 is the beginning of that. So let's assume that for a moment. I guess I just, on a similar topic, I was going to ask you if you guys thought they were going to make a Z52 or not.
Yeah, I think so. Very soon.
Okay, because I know that there's been some debate about that out there, that some people think that they will, and some people think that that's what the ZFC is, which I don't think that. I know. I don't think that, but some people think the ZFC kind of is the Z52. I think even Seth Miranda said that.
Did you check out Tony Northrup's review of the ZFC? Like,
yeah, the one he just did.
Yeah,
recently.
And yes, there's a scene when he was shooting 11 frames per second, and he was shocked how well it did. He said it does actually true 11 frames per second with full autofocus, and the pictures are all sharp. So I think there is a clear progress in terms of autofocus capability from Z50 to yeah. So from
iPhone.
Sorry?
What's that, Vahagan?
It's an iPhone. Pictures are also. You meaning like there's no depth of field? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. He was saying
Okay.
that. So Tony
They're
did
all
a
in
test.
focus.
Tony did a
Oh,
test where I think Chelsea walks towards him and he shoots
Yeah.
at 11 frames a second and he tracking her eye. And he said he was getting a full 11 frames per second and he got like 10 of them sharp. And like the one that wasn't sharp was very close.
the ZFC,
The
Yeah.
ZFC.
or was it the
Now,
KFC?
No, it was,
the same VFC.
are you
So
a
Let
Nikon? Are
me,
you a Nikon basher?
yeah. Hey, let me just address this one
no,
thing
this
before
just
we move.
let me finish that point. I was going to say, so therefore, if you, I think people would like to see the ZFC performance or slightly better than ZFC performance in a Z50 version body, Z50 kind of body, which will be the ZFC version too, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, but let me address this before you move on to other ZFC. Let me just address the Z8 real quick. I
Yeah.
think the Z8 is needed. The Z8 is needed. The Z8 should be a less expensive Z9 without maybe a tweak with on the megapixel side, maybe a higher megapixel so they can compete. 60, I'm guessing 60. They should have all the video features of the Z9, including 8K, 4K 120, and they should have all that, 10-bit and 16-bit for photography. It should be a less expensive option for like a Z9 without the
Yeah.
grip, obviously. A grip is optional. So just like the history of Nikon, D4, D5, D6, and then they had the D850 and so on.
Yep.
So that's
You know what?
what the Z8
And
should be.
I think Vahagan is saying that because my guess is that's the camera he wants to buy, and I agree with him. That's the camera I want to buy.
Yeah,
That's a
because I
camera
don't
I
need
want to
to
buy
spend. I
too.
don't need to buy.
Yeah.
I don't need to spend $7,000.
Right. So, and Frames just said that's the camera he wants to buy too. So that's interesting that all three of us would love that $4,000 camera that you just described.
Yeah, and I want 4K 120, but I don't want to spend $7,000 to achieve that. I want a high megapixel. I think 45 shouldn't be their pinnacle
No,
at this
well,
point. It should be 60 and higher.
I think it will be 60 and higher for several reasons. One of the things that will be different from a Z8 to a Z9, in my opinion, is that the Z8 won't shoot.
Z9 to Z8, you mean?
Yeah. So the Z9 and the Z8.
Yeah.
So the Z9 will have the rumor is 45 megapixels and it shoots 30 frames a second. I think the Z8 would be 60 to 80 megapixels and it probably would shoot like 15 frames a second.
I don't know about 80, but
whatever, 60 to 80. Who knows? Like maybe it's 60, but maybe they want to step that up a little because Sony did a 60 already. Who knows? But it's going to be higher megapixel. The frame rate will be a little bit lower, just like the D850's frame rate was lower than the D6 or the D5 rather. Because people shooting
one piece of information. Sorry, I'm just cutting short there. Just butting a little bit. One piece of information. So when he did the Z8 video, you know what most of the viewers said? I think about 60 to 70% of them said that they would like it to be a 30 something megapixel, like a 38, 35 megapixel camera, but something that will go up to do very good 4K and very good 6K.
Yeah. But
the number of people who said I wanted to be a 60 or 80 megapixel were very low.
I agree, but that's not the market. Those people that are saying that probably aren't really the market for it, to be honest, because I feel like it has to compete at the high end for resolution because that's going to be a direction other cameras are going.
Yeah.
And if you want a 36 megapixel camera, you have raw medium. The raw medium file on that camera is going to be around that range anyway. So you can just shoot in raw.
It's not. It's not because of that reason. It's not because of the raw medium.
You're catering to still photographers. So you have to give a little to gain a little. Now, if you want better low light performance, you have to have a lower megapixel camera. 12 megapixels.
So it has to hit that middle ground. Z8 has to hit the middle ground, in my opinion. And I think we do not agree on the megapixel count because I wanted to do a equally good video job. But in my opinion, it is a Z7 II, the Z7 III, which should upgrade itself from 45 because it's now taken by the Z9 and go up to Z 60, 65 or 80 megapixel because that's supposed to be the high megapixel camera. So I think we're discussing about the role of this camera. I think there's a clear need for one camera that is high megapixel and a need for a camera that is middling megapixel and does a very good job in terms of video. It does
we
the
know that
balancing act very well.
the Z6 III is probably going to be a 33 to 36 megapixel camera with video, just like you described.
Yeah,
That's
but
the Z6 III.
problem that I anticipate is the reason I don't trust on the Z6 III to deliver all this is because I don't think Nikon is going to, if Nikon is going to use a Sony sensor, and if Sony is limiting it to 4K 60 in the Z6, in the A7 IV, I don't think Nikon is going to do better than that, because the sensor will be limited by what Sony says they will do. I think there will be legalities involved.
And here's something else you got to keep in mind, right? You're paying 7,000 for a Z9. So what? I'm paying 3,000 less because it doesn't have a better battery and battery grip. That's something else you got to keep in mind.
Right,
It's
which
got-
is
you gotta
why
differentiate.
which is why I'm saying like it's going to be higher megapixel and lower frame rate. So
Mhm.
basically the photojournalists are not going to would be going with the Z9. The sports shooters are going with the Z9. They're not going with the Z8. It's not going to be as fast of a camera. It's going to have higher data, so it's going to have a slower frame rate. And this is following right in the steps of the Z8 of the D850 compared to the D5.
You
It's
know what
exactly the same.
You know what I've gathered very clearly from this conversation so far? We have no clue what Nikon is thinking. I don't think
Maybe
anyone
there's
has.
not even going to be a Z8. I
Right,
mean,
right.
Exactly.
But they have a spot at the 4,000 price point. If they don't take advantage of the $4,000 price point, that's a mistake, probably.
Yeah.
Because they have a slot that's open there vis-a-vis the
everything-
competition.
Other things I want them to improve on their portfolio, like Frame said, is in regards to video, come out with a few servo lenses. You know,
You what?
servo lenses. You
What
know
is
how
that?
Sony has it.
Yeah.
You know how Sony has the zoom lenses,
Mhm.
the power zoom lenses.
Hmm.
Where you
Oh.
can or you can automatically zoom with a button, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. That's like a video camera thing.
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about?
Sony has that for the A series, so AF servo.
Okay.
You know, servo lenses is needed for the consumer / pro hybrid shooter. Sony has a few, the 18 to what is it, 120, 18. I forget what it is, but 18 to 85 or something like that. Canon has a few. So
no, but
Nikon
Nikon has to do a second round of the most everyone's beloved D8 D500. Now, I really because the lack of conversation on a Z D800 D500 and a Z8 is a little frustrating for me, because I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think, and I think I'm not alone. I would buy any of this camera, whatever comes at first. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and get it, because I completely understand. I mean, I'm really looking forward to a D500 in the Z mount.
Yeah, but you won't call it D500 no more.
They'll call it Z500, whatever they will call it. Maybe they'll call it, I don't know what they will call it. Yeah, maybe a Z90, because like a D5 to D500, so Z9 to Z90 maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you guys think as far as lenses go? What they need? I mean, what are they doing as far as lenses? Because they're doing a good job so far, but they're not coming out with them soon enough.
They got to come out with the 200 plus millimeter lenses real soon.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem for them. Like they've covered up to 200 millimeters pretty well so far. There's some gaps still that, I mean, obviously we want the 85-1.2 and like a 35-1.2, and there's other ones in there, but they have really nothing besides F mount that's above 200 millimeters, unless you're going to use a teleconverter on the 70 to 200. And that's a big problem for Nikon right now.
Yeah, we need also like a 24 to 120 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they already said it's a 24 to 105, right?
Oh yeah, 105 is fine.
Yeah. But yeah.
2.8.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be a 2.8, I don't think, but that would be cool.
That would be.
But it'd be big.
3.5. 3.5, not 4. Constant 3.5.
Yeah, they could do something
Well,
like that where they could break the mold and do something in between. Yeah, like you said, 3.5.
they need
Like,
a
I think
they
it's
need
supposed
a
to be
fisheye.
2.8 to 4, right? Like
That
how
that was a
Tamron
room.
is.
That was a rumor. Yeah.
I don't like that. I just want it to be constant, man. I don't like that 2.8 to f4 stuff,
Wow.
man.
Well, then you can
I
set it at
don't.
f4. It'll be constant.
Yeah.
I want it to. I don't know, man. I just don't like. I want it to be f2.8.
Yeah.
They can do it. What's wrong with not? I mean, is it what's the problem? I don't
It's going to
know.
be too
Well,
expensive.
it'd be expensive and it'd be big,
Too
and
expensive. Too big.
it would also compete with the 74 to or the 24 to 72.8 at that
Yeah.
point. But I think
Exactly.
the 24 to 72.8 is a pretty substantial sized lens and I don't know how much bigger you want it to get than
Well,
that.
Canon has a f2. What f2
Yeah.
do they have?
It's
28 to
20,
7.
it's a 28 to 70. So they don't have the 24. They cut off 4 millimeters on the wide end, which is quite a bit, by the way, because the wider you get, the more each millimeter counts in terms of field of view, what you notice.
f28. That's right.
No,
Yeah.
they do have a 24 to 72.8 as well. They do have, but it's not that popular. I mean, it's not that talked about because the hero lens is a 28 to
Well, their
70.
24 to 72.8 Canon lens is stabilized, and
Yeah.
the 28 to 70 f2 lens is not stabilized. It has
Yeah.
in-body stabilization, but the lens is not stabilized. So that's
Yeah.
one of the differentiators because it was already big. It's a big lens, the 28 to 70. I've used that lens and it's big. And
Hey, Frames, we lost your video. Do you
Oh.
see Frames?
I guess we lost Frames too.
Yeah. No. I'm here. The video should be back. Yeah.
Oh, you're using your Z today.
Yeah, I am.
All right.
So it's
But I think from the APS-C standpoint, like the ZFC is a cool camera. I would not buy it. It's not for me. And I shot cameras that were just like that in the film days. So it's not that I don't have a need for me personally, I don't have the need to change the dials on top. I've done that enough in my life. But I understand why it's valuable and I understand why some people would want it. I just think I would like to see that kind of an upgrade in the body of the Z50. So
yeah.
I
But
would like
what
to
about
see
ZFC full frame? I think there's going to be a lot of takers on that.
before I go there, I just think like a Z50
EF.
Mark II, if it had the continuous charging of the ZFC, if it had the upgraded autofocus, and if they had a flip around screen,
Yeah.
that camera I think would be incredibly well sold. I think it would be a winner.
Yeah.
Frames
The
want
Z50 is
a
already a
ZF.
fantastic camera.
Frames want a ZF.
Yeah.
EF.
Yeah. Why
ZF.
not? I mean, I would.
Well, I hope the ZF would be. I personally thought the DF camera wasn't that great when I used it. It didn't feel like enough. Like it was kind of clunky. It was hard to hold. It wasn't very comfortable to hold, and it wasn't enough like my older cameras that I don't know. I just didn't. It had a terrible autofocus system too. It had the D600 autofocus system, which wasn't very good.
But look, I mean, we're not going to have those problems now.
Yeah, that's true.
But like what I'm imagining is I'm imagining myself with a ZFC ZF full frame and a Z8, which is about 40 megapixel and very good hybrid camera with a lot of video capabilities, professional video capabilities.
But
And
why? Why do you want a ZF? Is it because you like using dials?
I think it looks cool. Plus, I think the experience is different.
Like the looks.
He's a hipster.
Yeah.
The experience is different. Get a Leica, man. If you like that kind of stuff.
Out of my budget.
Too expensive.
Too expensive. Plus, I don't want to invest in so many systems.
Or fine, you have Fuji for that.
I have the Fuji, but then
he wants full frame.
I want full frame, and I like the output of Nikon much.
So you like the dials?
I like the Fuji dials, honestly.
I do think the ZF camera would probably sell. If the ZFC sold, the ZF camera would probably sell. It probably would. I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. Because I don't really know where I stand on it. Like the camera I want is pretty much the one Vahagan described, which is the $4,000 Z8. It's like basically the Z9, but with a few differences. And
yeah, but it won't be four.
Yeah.
It'll be 44.99 adjusted for inflation.
Well, I don't like inflation.
So let's. So it's like we're deciding for Nikon. We're like,
No, they listen.
this is what-
Yeah, they listen.
But
They know
it's
that.
tough. It's tough because one of the arguments that I've heard is that they don't have enough money to just like what Seth Miranda said on his talk with Matt Irwin was that he didn't see a Z8 coming out anytime soon. And his reason was they haven't, like, his point was that whenever a camera comes out, that's been in the making for like 3 years already. So it's not like they're just putting it out of the blue. It's been designed and it's been worked on and it's a pipeline. And just to make those molds takes a long time. And he doesn't think that they've really focused on that yet. He thinks that they put a lot of their work and energy into the Z9. So he doesn't actually think that they're going to bring out something like a Z8 anytime soon. Doesn't mean they never will, but he's thinking like it's a good year and a half, at least farther down the road.
Well, that's an
And it might.
interesting point. Okay, so just finish your point. I have an interesting.
No, go ahead.
rejoin to
Go
that.
ahead.
So I understand Seth's point that you have to make the molds and so as long as you have two types of body, that's why I think Z6 and Z7 and therefore Z6 II and Z7 II makes sense because it's essentially the same body. You just change the internals, so you don't have to tinker around so much. Like you change a few things, but not everything. So it's more practical. Now that they'll have a Z9 body, I'm just thinking about it. The Nikon knows that they'll have to really come back to the market with a lot of stuff. Now I'm thinking they already have the mold for ZF, C. They can really fit in a stabilizer, sensor stabilizer, and a full frame sensor in that. So they don't really need another mold to get a full frame ZF going. They don't really need another mold for a very good and quite capable Z50 version 2, or they can just chuck the Z50 version 2 can go directly to Z70. It's like far more capable, slightly more high megapixel crop sensor camera, complementing the Z7 II, like make it a 30 megapixel crop sensor camera, like a mirror crop sensor mirror image of the Z7. And my question is, I was reading somewhere about, I think it was in Fuji Rumors, and I was reading about it, and they said that what Fuji has done wrong is that they have experimented with too many body designs. So they've kept the sensor and the process the same, but they've changed the body designs a lot. So that incurs a lot of cost in terms of getting those molds designed and getting the production line set up. And they referred to Sony's strategy, and they said, look, what Sony has changed the internals, keeping the same body type. So now today I understand why Sony chose to go with the A1 and not have a unibody design, because then, okay, if I'm going to sell a certain only this many numbers of the A1, why should I invest in a completely different mold? Right? So I understand what Fuji Rumors was talking about, and I understand the logic so very clearly right now in the context of what Seth said and what you mentioned. So therefore, I'm saying, what else can the Z9 body type be used for? Imagine the Z9 body type without the extension of the battery grip. Just cut it off midway. I don't know if that's considered a completely different mold.
Well, I think that is a different mold, unfortunately.
I think it is. Yeah.
And
but
that's
if that's
why
possible.
See, one of the things is these cameras are smaller. Like, so for example, one of the comments people have been making about the R3 is how small it is, much smaller than you expect when you hold it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because it's more compact than the old full body cameras were.
Right.
So that could be an argument against making another camera that's the same thing, but without the grip, if the one with the grip is small enough. But then there's a price point issue as well. Because like or like what Vahagan said, he doesn't want to spend $7,000. He doesn't want to spend that much money. And I don't really either, to be honest. So there needs to be something that's more like affordable and where you cut out some of the issues. Like, I also don't care about 30 frames a second. I think that they need to have that in the Z9, but I don't need to have that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to use 30. I mean, never is a weird word, but I can't imagine a time when I need it.
Man, you
And
got
I
to
was,
edit all those photos, man.
yeah. And
Who has the time?
I was listening to a pro sports photographer, and he was saying that he doesn't think that really you ever really need more than 16 frames a second. And he was professionally shooting sports.
I mean,
So
look,
I don't know.
at
Like you have,
at 8 frames a second, it's crazy good to go through all those files.
yeah.
I mean, seriously.
But the point is, it has to be out there because there is a use case for it. It's just it's a very specific
Of
use
course,
case.
man. You're shooting a guy
But
on the mound. You know, you need
right,
that ball in
and
the
this is
back.
why I think a Z8 can that could be one of the differentiators of the Z8 from a Z9 is that it doesn't have to have those frames per second, and as a result, it can have higher resolution. So, and I think that's a logical differentiator. The other thing is the Pro body is going to have way more function buttons.
Yeah.
And that's really important because one of the criticisms of the Z6 and Z7 body is that it doesn't actually have enough function buttons. And I think that's true.
I agree.
I do
Look
love.
Look at the Sony body. I mean, the Fujis, the Sonys, they have so many more even the Canons, so many more function buttons.
Right.
But
And I think
Nikon have placed them beautifully, so ergonomically, but the number of buttons that can be, assigned for different tasks is much lesser than those bodies.
Yeah, I
love
love
disappointing. You know what's disappointing about the Z6, and I'm not sure if the Z7 II has this. It doesn't have a flash sync port.
You mean the old school? If
anyone is wondering why I yawned a couple of times, sorry. If anyone is wondering, viewers, if anyone of you is wondering why I yawned a couple of times, it's 1 a.m. in the morning in India. That's why. So
the flash. I mean, yeah, it's old school. It's old school, but I mean, there's some use for that.
There is, but this is traditionally not a port that they had. For example, the D750 didn't have that port either, but the D850 does. So I think it's more of they look at that as a professional thing, Vahagan, even though it's super old. But if you think about it, like only professional photographers for the most part are going to use that because the younger guys don't even know what that is. Like people they don't even know what that is. That's so rarely used now.
Yeah.
So I feel like
they should have that. The other thing they should work on is their rolling shutter. I mean, yeah, it's a problem with all manufacturers. When you're shooting something out the window in a car, you're doing video or whatever, and you have that uneven plane. They gotta address those issues. I mean,
the Z9 is a stack sensor. It's supposed to have a very fast readout, so it should, in theory, be addressing that to a level. It should be much better.
Sometime soon in the future, people are going to look back and look at the rolling shutter visuals, and they'll call it an aesthetic style. And then
it'll be vintage. It's vintage.
Yeah,
vintage.
And it'll be a creative look, and then there'll be softwares coming out, and they'll bend the straight lines and give it that look.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, the other thing I'm looking forward, that they should put that in the museum, saying it was the sign of the times, with the weird wavy, But the other thing I'm looking forward to is a 16-bit, more color accuracy, better skin tones,
They said the Z9 is going to have 16-bit RAW. That's a rumor. And so that maybe
Oh, it's a rumor.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be looking forward to it, right?
Oh, by the way, maybe even another
might not be true.
It's a what I mean by it's a rumor is I guess maybe you're joking with me because we both feel the same way. It's that we don't know because they didn't message it. We just have a rumor.
Wait, what does B&H? The B&H lists this camera, and they have
the Z9.
Yeah,
I thought that the only things that I thought were official was 8K, a stacked sensor, and
45 megapixels,
and that it's no, that's not even official.
It's not on there.
No, that's a confirmed rumor.
Hold on. You guys talk. Let me.
So look up what's official, but I think it's really just a stacked sensor. By the way, people keep saying it's a stacked BSI sensor, which by the way, it's not. Which they haven't advertised.
And I mentioned it in a few of my videos that Nikon has mentioned it. No, they have never mentioned this to be sensor to be a BSI sensor, which is
right. Which is strange because R3 I think is a stacked BSI sensor.
Okay,
And
so this is what we got. We got Nikon Z9 mirrorless digital camera, new FX format, stacked CMOS sensor, new
right.
image processing engine, 8K video recording. Nikon is pleased to announce the development of the first flagship, blah, 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 the
Yep.
Nikon Z9 full frame. That's all you got.
Right. So all we know is it's a stacked sensor, CMOS, but
Mhm.
potentially not backside illuminated. And then we know it's got a new processing engine, which is the big thing, I think, because
Yeah.
that apparently that processor is much more powerful than anything they've used before. And that's going to allow it to do 8K and allow a lot of the fast frame rate and so on. So, but that's all we know for confirmed. The rest is rumor. And some
You
rumors
know,
are more confirmed than others. Like
I
like
noticed.
I would be surprised now if it's not a 45 megapixel. We've heard that enough, and the rumor site kind of confirmed it to the extent that they can confirm it. It's probably true.
I don't
That
think
part,
Nikon knows.
maybe not. What were you?
You
Maybe
know,
not.
there's one observation when Jared Poling did that video on the R3, and he said how the balls are like eggs,
Oh,
right?
yeah, the
They're
rolling shutter.
yeah, little. So R3 had so the sensor readout speed is not that much, even though
Well,
it's a 24 megapixels sensor, and but an A1 has a 50 megapixel sensor, and it still has no egg-shaped balls. I mean, when you shoot balls.
That doesn't sound right. Frames.
well,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Canon one, he said that you could tell that it was distorted. I watched that video, and you could tell, but it was very
yes,
minor. It was very,
yeah.
very
But
minor.
then no, it's an observation of on how difficult it is to get the stacked sensor right when in your first attempt.
I think it's a processing thing too. It's processor speed too. Maybe.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
it's sensor
So,
speed and processors.
or maybe,
Yeah.
but I mean, so clearly it's a generational thing. It's Gen 1 for them, and Sony has been doing it for a while now, so they've kind of mastered it. And I don't know how it's going to look like for Nikon, because they also have a pretty high megapixel sensor. I hope it's it. I hope you can actually shoot without distortion. Um, very high pace scenario in
Yeah,
solutions.
I don't know, man. We just gonna have to wait and see. They probably, I don't know what's gonna happen, but as far as lenses go, yeah, they should upgrade their APS-C line too a little bit. Come out with more Z APS-C lenses.
Look, I'm really impatient about the 85 1.2
Yeah.
and 100 to 400.
And I think they need to put that 200 to 600 out quickly, because
Yeah.
if you the 200 to 500 Nikkor lens is a very, very good seller. Like a lot of people bought that lens. It wasn't a gold ring lens. It wasn't like a top line lens. It was considered the lower level, and it was like $1,400, and it was 200 to 500, and that lens still sells today. And
I think if they're,
the
I
200
think
to
they're not,
600 is also not an S line lens. So it's the one that's
yeah,
analogous to the 200 to 500 is the
right.
200 to 600. And that's the most important one to put out, I think. Well, that's actually not true. From a consumer standpoint, it is. From the professional standpoint, that's not the case whatsoever. But the
Well,
consumers are mostly going to buy that one.
you have more consumers than professionals out there.
Yeah, but the pros, if they don't want to lose all the pros in the meantime,
Of course
that's
not.
the
But I'll tell you. What I find interesting is that all the conversation of the FTZ2. Now, I think if they have to make a choice between what do I launch, if Nikon cannot launch all of those lenses in the lineup, then I think they're going to prioritize getting the FTZ out and allow people to actually use those already the 200 to 500, right? With a better adapter. And meanwhile, get the 1.2s out, because I think that those lenses are like the 24 to 100, 105 or 120, the 100 to 400, the 85 1.2. These lenses, I think, are priority right now, because you don't have an equivalent of these things right now. Nikon doesn't have a 85 1.2, right? So these are the lenses I think are going to be interesting. I'm also expecting a 28 1.4 if possible, because they have a wonderful 28 1.4 for the F mount. If they can replicate that, I mean, of course, do a better job than that. But 28 is a wonderful focal length. Um, um, I I don't think they don't have a 28-118 right now out, right? Do they? They
No,
don't. They have 20 and 24.
they
So
have a
28
28. They have a 28 2.8.
to 8 is. So I think 28 millimeter is going to be important if they can do a 1.4 and they skip the 1.8 already, and I think that's going to be interesting.
Well, we only have the 400 2.8 being announced and the 85 1.2.
Yeah.
Is it?
But
Are those? Are they even announced? Actually,
They're going to be.
yeah, they said that these are
when?
to the
When are
these two
they?
are the priority lenses.
Right, but when are they going to be announced? I thought that like we thought it was going to be already.
Just says the next two lenses rumored to be announced by
So
Nikon are the
they
those.
originally said that like this is going back to the beginning of their fiscal year, so March of this year or so. They said that before the end of the fiscal year, they were putting 12 more lenses out, and since then they've put out like 3 or 4. So really,
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. I think
No,
I
but
think
yeah, say in this case, year end means 31st March
yeah, but even then,
2022.
are they going to put 8 more lenses out
I,
between now and March?
Look, I don't know because I think look, the situation has completely changed, right? Canon
Yep.
R3 is not going to be available with anyone right now because they can't produce it.
yeah.
Right. So they
So
should just message. They should message now the new. They should apologize and give
I
the
mean, it's okay.
explanation,
They don't
and
need to
then
say sorry. It's not their fault, but they should definitely talk about it. Yeah, they should just
yep,
tell us that look, this is happening. Look, they might say that we are smart people. You already understand, but they could do a revised plan of that lens lineup and say, look, we are going to be able to launch these 3 or these 4,
right,
and so that people can plan their
right,
lives. Right.
exactly.
That's about it. That's
Right.
about it. And that's the point that I want to make in the last video when I talked about Nikon being quiet again on the Z9, because they can tell us, okay, this is the timeline. You can expect a news around December. Next thing we're going to talk next in December, and you're going to see the body in February. That's fine, but say that.
And as far as
Uh,
new body, like I wonder, like I really wonder what they're going to be able to do with firmware for the Z6 II and Z6 or Z7 II.
yeah,
There was rumored firmware it's going to come out with the Z9. Hopefully that's true, and hopefully it makes a big, really upgrades the camera. And I think
what I find what I found a little bit disappointing was when Seth Miranda said that, and he probably has insights into what's going on inside Nikon, when he was speaking with Matt, and he said that, look, the Z9 will come out first, and then some of those goodness will flow into the Z6 IIs and Z7 IIs in the form of firmwares. But I was really expecting the firmware releases to happen before that, because I'm sure a certain level of advancement in terms of firmware have already been made. I'm sure they're not working on it. They're just perfecting it. A certain level of real-time tracking is already there. If they can package it right now for Z6 II and Z7 II, that's going to be great. This another thing that he also mentioned. He said that, what, they can't produce many lenses and many bodies right now because there's a chip shortage. So a lot of these companies are now focusing on firmware. And if they look at firmware as a source of revenue, damn. Then I don't want to pay for a firmware update. I mean, probably
They
unwillingly,
already offered
grudgingly
that with
pay.
the yeah, you had to pay to upgrade to what? The Z6 what was it, the
raw,
60 frames? The
Yeah.
raw, right? You had to pay for that.
you have to
I
pay
don't
for the
know
raw
if
upgrade.
I don't know if I like that. Why are you charging a camera? They already bought your product. Why are you
Well,
charging for software?
that, that's a
Well,
very
I don't know. I don't even know if it's software. I think is it just software because you have to send the camera in
yeah, it's
as
Mm,
well. So it
yeah,
might
it
be
is
something
software.
it might be actually
They wanted
something
to they
physical.
wanted
I don't
to they
know.
wanted to they wanted to control the distribution so that it doesn't get copied and it's not out in the market. That's the
And I
reason.
also think that they wanted to not charge that they would have had to charge more money for the camera, and they wanted to keep the price point down, and they knew that many of the users would not need that function. That's a
yeah.
specialized function for very
Yeah.
specific people.
And that's why
And
you
if
have
you
to send that's why you need to send your camera in, because you've had the file in your folder, within a pen drive. You could just give it to your friend, and he could also do the click. Then you just need one
Right.
file out. Right.
Yeah, there's a few things that they've probably could have managed better when they launched the mirrorless. Number
For sure.
one was the FTZ. I think they were confused. Should they include it? Should they not include it? When they rolled out, they
Yeah.
were giving these things away for free. Remember?
Yeah.
At the very
I
beginning,
remember a lot of people said that this should have been free, but I agree. But it's okay. It is not that expensive, so it's fine. And it's something that are going to be
I disagree. I think, well, they always discounted it. They tried to, but the retail price of $250 retail price is definitely too high. That's definitely too high.
Yeah.
That's very high. I mean, you can almost buy the 40 millimeter lens for that.
Yeah.
Almost the new 40 f2.
Yeah.
So it's
They
too
were
high.
confused. They didn't know what to do.
And Canon did the right thing. I thought they had 3 adapters at various price points. The cheapest one was $100, and it was just, all it did was adapt, and it was great. And then they had one that had a control ring on it, and that was $200. And then they had one that had you could put the filters into it, and that was $300. But that would be worth it if you were a landscape guy or like whatever. That putting the filters in there is great, because then you get one filter for all of your lenses.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Well, Frames did a video on the 40 recently. What do you guys think of that lens?
So I'm waiting for the lens. It's still not available in India, unfortunately. But Nikon doesn't, as you know, they haven't sent me a copy. Of course, it's not. I sent them a mail, but then they didn't respond.
That's
not
cool.
particularly for the 40mm, but they didn't respond. I don't know if the India Nikon team is that active in these matters. But anyway, I'm really excited about that lens, because I'll tell you what. I think with this 40mm, these kind of lenses, Nikon can actually effectively fight with a lot of compact series of cameras coming from Fuji or from Sony. I think just by slashing the weight of the lens, like what, 170 grams, right? 170 grams. That's light. That's very light.
I was disappointed. I was disappointed that the 2.8 wasn't an f2 lens.
Well, I think
it would have had to be bigger, I guess, but 2.8 is 2.8 is I know, but 2.8 is like only, I don't even consider 2.8 to be fast, really. It's like medium fast. It's like medium speed. And I don't know. I just think it would, as an f2.
It's fast enough for most situations, especially on a long lens, but or wide lenses also, because wide lenses are complex lenses. You need to have a large front element. I guess it's a matter of keeping the weight and the size similar.
I guess so.
The plan.
I mean, I'm sure that's the reason.
I like that idea. And you know what? I also like the idea that the 40mm is only a 6-element lens. They've only got 6 pieces of glass inside it. It's a much more simpler design, which is something
smaller. It's lighter. It's compact. Yeah. You can take it anywhere, and
and it's still well corrected. It's not like as per the reports and whatever I've read and whatever I've seen so far.
I had this crazy idea I wanted to throw out to you guys, and I think it's probably ridiculous, and I'm sure they'll never do it. But remember, I was talking in the other video we did about how Nikon was an optics company, and how they were making lenses like that was their business. Even before cameras, they were making like periscopes and telescopes, and they've just been an optical company. Why can't Nikon make lenses for other mounts?
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Like straight up, why doesn't Nikon make like Sony E-mount shit and have a Nikon lens that's native to Sony E-mount? Like,
that's
why
a good
not?
Question.
Like, they're an optics company. Who cares? Sell your optics, man.
Then no one would buy their cameras.
No, but maybe not. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be equivalent, because obviously if they made an E-mount lens, it wouldn't be the Z-mount version, because the flange is different. The flange is farther away on the E-mount. So they'd have to make
have the same optics. Sony might say, no, I'm not going to open my my software to you.
No, but they already did. Sony's already opened it. That it's open anyway for everybody. I mean, you got to pay a licensing fee, I guess, but that's it.
Yeah, no,
It's
but
open.
let's say I'm saying let's say that there's some problem in getting even the autofocusing going. I'm saying why not make, just taking that idea forward, why not make nice solid with the same glass? The glass is already there. You just have to figure out the body, change the body into nice metal cinema line body with those focusing rings and aperture rings, because there are such good cinema lenses already with no focus breathing, with so much correction in it. So I think it's a very interesting idea. I mean, you just have
Wait,
to. It's like,
you're saying take the existing lenses and put them into a different body where you can
yeah,
mechanically focus.
yeah,
It's not focused by wire.
yes.
That's
Because
what you're saying.
yeah, because you see, both Sony and Canon have cinema lines. Panasonic use a lot of adapted cine lenses. I mean, taking that idea forward, if Nikon don't want to get into the complications of getting the autofocus right, because that's a performance issue. And if the autofocus is not working correctly, people will say, oh, you know what, you've got a lens for Sony or Canon, the autofocus is not right. I think that's not Nikon's strength. Nikon's strength is optics, like you said. So offer the optics, right?
Right.
Because
I don't know,
advanced-
man.
But I
Conflict of
think,
interest.
no, I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to do this, Vahagan, but I just thought it was funny because it's kind of full
Yeah.
circle. If they started out making lenses for cameras before they made cameras, they were making lenses for Canon. And now they could make lenses for Sony. Sony does license their mount. Like, it's unlike Canon and Nikon. You can just pay Sony a licensing fee and they give you the formula.
But I'm saying I really like this idea, and I'm asking, why not?
I don't.
You don't want
Because
Nikon.
nobody will-
You don't
nobody
use.
will
You,
buy
you
the
don't want
camera.
Sony users to get the goodness of Nikon lenses.
No, because Sony's advanced when it comes to video, so is Canon. So all they have to do is buy the lens, and there you go. I mean, yeah, their color science is a little different, but
Well, but yeah, but selling, they
But
can make
you-
plenty of, I mean, they want to sell lenses more than they want to sell bodies anyway.
Yeah. How many bodies do you
Because-
have, and how many lenses do you have?
Right. Like, the whole idea of having a body is so they could sell their lenses initially. That's even why they started doing bodies in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying they would stop making Nikon cameras, because they wouldn't. And I think
course
Nikon
not.
people are still going to want to use the Nikon.
Don't say that
and
stuff.
and
Don't say
and
that stuff. Don't even
and-
go there.
no, and the Z mount is better. So even
Yeah.
if they make a lens for the E mount, there's only so far they can go until they run into a limitation that they don't have on the Z mount.
yeah, but I don't think the Canon and Sony would want to play ball like that.
Well, Sony will play ball because it's public. Like, they already have made that decision. Canon doesn't do it. That's true.
No,
So maybe
that's
they
what
don't
I'm
make it.
saying. That's what I'm saying. How does it matter? Make a manual focus lens. I mean, look, the entire market of Venus Optics and all these lens manufacturers, TT Artisan, right?
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah.
The lens manufacturer, even Samyang, they're such beautiful. I've not used any of them, but they look beautiful. Those manual focus lenses, exquisite looking stuff. I mean,
No, but now Viltrox is doing something for the Z mount
Right.
autofocus.
Right.
So how'd
Yeah.
they pull that off?
So just like Tamron and Sigma, they always had to reverse engineer the mount. So Nikon and Canon have never shared the algorithms or whatever it is. And these other companies have to spend research and development money reverse engineering it, which they've done, which is why we had Tamron and Sigma lenses for Canon and Nikon DSLR. And it's also interesting that Tamron and Sigma already have reverse engineered the Z mount because they had to for the FTZ adapter, because now their lenses work, their DSLR Nikon lenses work on the Z camera through the adapter, which means they already know how to talk to the Z mount. So in theory, they could just make Z line lenses now. The only reason,
Yeah, no, look, I don't think the engineering challenge is about getting the camera to talk, because even a adapter like this mega adapter is doing that for the Sony lenses. But no, I think it is, if Tamron and Sigma think that I really want to take advantage of that mount with the larger flange, smaller flange, and larger diameter, then I would have to redesign the focusing element and especially the rear part of the lens. And if they are to kind of redesign those elements, then that's a
Yeah.
that
I
takes
don't think
long
they
time.
would, they're not going to take advantage of it. They're going to just sell the same lens fitting on the Z mount. That's
Yeah.
what they're going to do.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Is this more because I'm not a legal expert, you know? I take pictures for a living, but maybe you know the answer to this. Is this more of a legal thing or an engineering issue? Don't they
I
have to
think
have the
it's
licensing to
No,
even mount? Huh?
no. Well, I don't think so because Nikon and Canon don't offer that. Nikon and Canon
Hmm.
they don't give anybody their algorithms for autofocus or the mount.
or more
Yet
importantly,
yet
right to
Tamron,
use.
Sigma, Tamron, and a host of other companies all made lenses for Nikon and Canon DSLR, but
So
they weren't.
Nikon doesn't need to sign off on it.
I don't think so because if you I
You're
don't really know
copying their
that.
mount, you know, you're doing this. Don't they, can they get sued?
Well, evidently that's not how it works because there wouldn't be all these companies in business doing it. And we know that Nikon and Canon doesn't play ball officially. That was the big difference. The reason why there's so many aftermarket lenses for Sony is because Sony made a decision early on to license the E mount.
Yeah, and again, I'm not an expert, guys. So,
So
but
what it
I
means
was
is,
thinking, what I was thinking was they might got it like somewhat of a kickback from Tamron, you know, or Sigma saying, okay, here's a little bit of a fee, or I don't know.
I see what you mean. I don't know. But
You know what's interesting? Like if you observe, we'll see that no one makes like Tamron has stated they will make lenses for the Fuji mount, X mount. These companies are not making lenses for Fuji and Nikon, but Viltrox is now making lenses for Fuji, and they're also making lenses for Nikon. It's like Viltrox is for Fuji and Nikon. Viltrox is, I mean, it's equivalent to Sigma and
By the
Tamron.
way, I was using the Viltrox over the weekend, the 35 full frame lens,
How was it?
autofocus lens. I was using it.
yeah,
Viltrox sent me one. By the way, guys, for all you frames, all the viewers here, check out my review coming soon on Vahography on YouTube, on my channel. I'll be putting out a full review on that lens. What I'm trying to say is it worked amazing. The lens was great. Now, I haven't done a full test on it yet, but what I saw, because I was at a gig, I couldn't really inspect the files yet. But what I observed, it did a really good job. For $400,
Hmm.
hey, can
yeah,
you when you do your test also test it for the focus breathing? Because
that's what I'm gonna do.
I saw a guy who did something with it on YouTube, and it looked like it did not focus breathe. It actually
Nice.
looked like it was really good, but
Seen
you'd
this?
be nice if you confirm that,
I'm gonna
Bahagan.
focus breathe. I'm gonna do a focus breathe test. I'm also
Yeah.
gonna do a compare it with the 35Z.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because it's a 1.8. They're
Yeah.
both 1.8. And I'm also gonna do a how stable the autofocus is. Like if I'm here, if it's a talking head, does it haunt for focus?
Right.
And I'm gonna
By
do
the
that.
way, that lens weighs just as much as a Nikon Z mount lens, 370 grams. But it
Right, but
has
it's half the it's half the price.
half the price, and it has got a metal body.
Viltrox, $399. Yeah.
I mean, I love what they're doing.
And it has a ring. It has an aperture ring on it, on the lens.
Yeah.
And you can put it on A mode. What that does is you can control the aperture right on the camera.
Yeah.
But you have an aperture dial as well,
You have
right?
a dial.
Yeah.
You
So
have
some
an
people
aperture
would.
dial.
So that would be a better lens to put on the ZFC or a future ZF camera.
Yeah, it has the dial where you could set it.
Yeah.
But it also has the A where you put it on A and you can do it with with the camera.
By the way, for the Viltrox also has a line of DX APS-C lenses, and those all have the aperture ring too. Those are the ones that would go on the ZFC.
Yeah.
To me.
I got two of those, which I'm gonna review too. They send me. Cool. They're aggressive, man. They're aggressive.
Well, but that's because there's no one else competing with them except Nikon. Like they don't have it's not like the old days. Like for the F mount, there's like I don't even know 10 other companies that make F mount lenses. Maybe more.
Good job, Viltrox. Shout out to Viltrox.
Yeah, shout out to
this. Hey, Viltrox, if you're watching this, review coming soon. But you know what? I want to give a quickly shout out to Frames, You guys should be sending frames, these lenses too, because I want to see those gorgeous cityscapes in India. You know, what are you waiting
Oh
for? And
yeah,
send a few over to,
yeah.
Baron
Oh,
too. We
by the
haven't
way,
seen
Send it,
that.
send them on over,
Yeah.
or you can send them
there's
to Vahagan, and I'll come shoot it with Vahagan.
there's one guy called Taipei Geek, and he's like, I've been following his comments for the last like more than three, 2.5 years. I really like the passion that he has, and he suggested in the last video. He said, you should show us India through your lens instead of talking uh, shit on Z9. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
you should show India instead of talking shit about the Z9. Is that what you said?
yeah, and I'm like, yeah, you're sure people are people will be interested to see India?
Of
I mean, they said, yeah,
course, we
of
want to
course.
see that beautiful city and the colors and the culture. You know,
So,
yeah.
so
You-
yeah, Viltrox, please send me a couple of lenses. By the way, I already have a Viltrox lens and love the lens. It's the 23 mm 1.4 for the Fuji. I'm sure it's the same lens as the one that you have
Yeah.
for APS-C Z mounted. It's like an adaptation of that lens. But I like what Viltrox is doing. It's like they're readying the ground for a ZF.
yeah, and they're built.
I know you guys don't want you guys don't like the idea of a ZF, but I'm
No, I do like,
excited.
I'm happy with it. I just wouldn't, I don't want to see that instead of something else.
Yeah.
I
So
want, if it's in
yeah,
addition to,
sure,
that's fine.
sure. So I want the ZF to be essentially Z62 in that body. Then I'm going to sell off the Z62 and the Z6, and I'm going to get the Z8 and the ZFC, the ZF, and
Yeah,
probably a good crop sensor body for telephoto, especially for a little bit of wildlife.
yeah.
Which I yeah that's all I need. Those are three cameras that I want.
Well, here that yeah, but that's a good choice.
None of those cameras exist today. So yeah.
So the fact that Viltrox is making these lenses just shows that it can be done, and other companies have to decide if the markets. So people said Tamron and Sigma are waiting because they weren't sure about the market share of the Z camera. And Viltrox is a smaller company, so they probably thought if no one else is competing in this space, even if it's a smaller market, we're still going to sell lenses. So, and they're right.
You know,
I think they're right so far.
you know what I was surprised by. There's this Andrew and Dane. It's a Fuji channel that I really love and follow. So he did a review of the ZFC, and I was he did a very methodical review on who the ZFC is for, and he was quite positive or neutral till the midpoint of the video. Then he started saying that but someone who's an advanced user, someone like me, I never felt inspired to pick up this camera and do anything with it. It just sat there. So guys, I don't have good pictures to show. Then he showed a really like labored few pictures. It's almost felt like an insult to the ZFC. And his point was that what, it has got nothing new and it has no lenses. That's one thing. The ZFC has no lenses for. My question is, for a camera like ZFC, you don't need anything beyond 35 mm, 28, 35, 50, and maybe an 85. And all of those things are right now available between Nikon and Viltrox. You have 28, you have 40, you have 35 by Viltrox in the form of 23.
You mean you're not gonna do birding? You're not gonna do birding with it with the dials?
Sorry?
I'm just kidding. Nothing, man. It's a joke.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I'm saying these cameras are used for like more of trips, travels, and street photography and stuff like that. Like more casual shoots. But you need 28 to 85 as the focal length, and you have all these lenses. Okay, exactly. I love the point that you made. Are you going to do birding with that with ZFC? Of course not. So I don't need I don't need a 300 mm lens for the ZFC. Like you might have a 300 mm lens for the Fujis because they have only the APS-C lineups, and so they have to cater to all the audience.
I think when they say that they don't have enough there's no lenses for the DX Z mount, they're talking native. The point is, I think they're not
native
really,
meaning it's Nikon branded, because native lenses are available.
Well, not native. Nikon OEM.
Oh
OEM
yeah,
lenses. That's what they're
OEM
saying.
lenses.
There's only two
Yeah.
OEM lenses right now for DX. But your point is you can use, any of the other lenses, and that's
No, you
true.
can
Like,
use it too. You can use, yeah, you
right,
use 7200, whatever.
right. And I did.
Yeah.
I shot a soccer game of a friend of mine's daughter using my Z 50 with the 70 to 200 because it's
Oh,
great. Yeah, it was great. It was great
Were
because
you were you
350 is very
using
fast.
were you using the 7200Z, right?
yeah, the 7200 Z S lens
Uh-huh.
on the Z50.
How was it?
Great, because it had the crop factor. So I was shooting it was 100 to a 280, and it was like perfect. That's a perfect range for soccer from the sideline.
Mm.
And it did great. It tracked just fine. It's, it's fine. Yeah. But that
Nice.
has a grip, but that camera has a grip that you can actually hold on to. You couldn't do that with a
Mm.
ZFC. That
Yeah,
would be annoying.
yeah, of course.
Mm.
And that's why
That's
we need
nice.
the Z50 version too.
Yeah. That's why I like
I
the
think-
Or
Z50.
maybe just go.
I think the whole point of them having DX at this point is for cost. Just, for consumers,
Yeah.
right? DX lenses, that is, not DX cameras, because the D500 is a great camera for that, It's a crop sensor camera, but you can use your full frame lenses like you did.
And that's probably why they'll make a line of compact full frame lenses. And the idea will be those are made also for the DX. We're not going to make a specific DX lens, which I don't think they need to. As long as the like the 40 f2 is very small. I'm sure that's very comfortable on a Z50. Very
Yeah,
comfortable.
it was 60 millimeter.
The 40 f2 that
No,
just
yeah,
came.
but it turns into
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns into
60.
a 60, and then the 28 turns into a 42.
Yeah,
And so,
makes sense.
and if you make a whole line, like maybe they make 2 or 3 more lenses that are of that, that level, like the low, they're not S lenses, they're more compact and they're not S line, but they're still good, but they're light and cheap. And they'll work with the DX as well. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
you're getting double duty.
You know what I'm going to really love, Vagan, because you're talking about lenses. I think something like a 20 to 60. Look, you have
20
the
to
standard.
60?
Yeah, you have the standard 24 to 70, but to get to a 20 focal length, you need to buy a prime, which could be expensive. But if you have a decent f4 20 to 60, for most people in daylight, I mean, you can get fantastic wide angle. And you know what? Who does it? Panasonic does it. Panasonic has a kit lens with the S5 that has 20 to 60. And I think that is very smart of them to do that, because then suddenly you don't need to spend extra money, because you can sacrifice that 10 millimeter at the long end, but to get that extra 4 at the wide end is
Yeah, but-
expensive. You're getting a lot of value there.
Yeah, that focal length is it's popular with real estate photographers. 21 millimeter.
Architecture
Yeah, that's a good popular.
and landscape travel.
Mhm.
And also very interesting sort of kind of portrait shoots when you have a lot of like power shots, when you use the distortion to effect. So even in studio shoots, in some cases, it's really handy when you want to go a little wider and get the distortion to work for you.
Yeah. Hey, Strange, how long are you gonna go on this one?
I think I'm going to cut this out, but I think I'm done. So we're just going to say.
Wait, maybe Baron wants to add a few things.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I do think that Canon was onto something with the 28 to 70 f2, because I think that's for an event type thing. That's when I would consider shifting from having two lenses or two bodies with two lenses to one body with one lens. Because at that point it's fast, it's kind of fast enough, and it's got the range that you need. So that's pretty cool. And that's about it. And
It's cool.
Yeah.
if you want to check out my work, I'm at Baron Silverton, and my website's baronsilvertonphotography.com. I'm basically a portrait. I do fashion portraiture, and I use off-camera flash, and that's kind of what I like to do. But I shoot everything, and I do love photography in general. And even on my website, you can see landscape and street and family and wedding, and not so much of the wedding is on there, but so I shoot it all. I just love photography. I think we all love photography. I want to thank Frames for having me on again. I want to thank Vahagan. These guys are great. They have really cool channels. I've actually learned a lot from them as well. And I know a ton of stuff about this. So they keep me interested. So they're doing something right. And I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Baron.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to put the links to your
Thank you,
work.
Frames. Thank you, Baron. Thank you, Frames. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and guys,
channel too.
do check out Baron's work. I'll put the links below in the description. And also Vagan, guys, definitely give him a follow. I mean, I have,
Vahography.
It's
yeah,
Vahagraphy.
follow
And
him-
I'll
follow him
before we
at
cut it off,
Vahagraphy.
I'm going to show you. This is the Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh,
And it's Ozzy. Can you see Ozzy right there?
Ozzy, yeah.
So another
Mr. Crowley.
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So Vagan is a big music fan, and I think you already you still have that band with you, or you've disbanded.
No, man, that
Oh.
was after,
Long
out of
time
high
back.
school, man. Nah. Yeah.
Oh,
But you
high
still
school.
play, but you still play drums.
Yeah. But that was just, you think I have time for that?
You should make time for that.
I should. You're right.
But anyway, guys, give them
It's
both
not
a
me.
follow.
It's not me. It's other guys. In order to play with other people, they have to have
Yeah.
time too. So it's hard.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, thanks for having us,
priorities.
Frames.
Yeah. See you guys.
Thank